This is the FM Gold channel of All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on Citizenship Amendment Act and related issues. The participants are Praful Ketkar, political analyst, and Aditi Tandon, journalist.
Yesterday, the centre announced that the Citizenship Amendment Act will come into force from January 10. In a Gazette notification, the Union Home Ministry said that the law under which 6 non-Muslim minorities from Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan will be given fast Indian citizenship will actually be starting from January 10 for the purposes of implementation. The rules of the Act are yet to be framed by the Home Ministry, but the date itself becomes very important, Prafulaji, because we were all waiting for the notification formally of this law, which the Parliament had passed on December 11 last year. And we all know that after December 11, when the law was passed, a large number of agitations have happened across the country. There have been certain confusions about the Citizenship Amendment Act, especially because the National Register of Citizens. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi made it clear at a Delhi rally in Ramleela grounds that no such debate has yet taken place and the whole country would naturally be taken into confidence as and when the issue happens. How do you see the importance of January 10 in the matter of implementation of the law? It's significant politically because the government has signalled across the country that they are firm on this commitment.
It is a very important decision, and kind of willpower that government has shown is important for various reasons. One, because many people are arguing about this was done in a haste. The fact is, in 2016 it came already in Lok Sabha. In fact, after that, there were various rounds of negotiations, especially in the Northeast, where there were real concerns about identity and accommodating new people. But the fact remains that Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee resigned from Nehru cabinet precisely on the same issue. Dr. Ambedkar, while resigning from Nehru's cabinet in 51, also mentioned about this issue. In 1954, Jana Sangha, in its resolution, talked about having some kind of policy about the minorities in Bangladesh and Pakistan especially, although Afghanistan was not there. And since then, there are at least 6 to 7 resolutions in Jana Sangh or BJP that talked about this particular issue. And it featured consistently in BJP's manifesto. Since partition days, and if you go to the documents and parliamentary debates of 1960s and 70s, the reality is even the communists, many people in the Congress, they have been talking about this issue time and again. Ms. Mamata Banerjee herself spoke about this in 2005 in Parliament. So this was a serious issue of giving some kind of recognition to the persecuted minorities who are coming to India precisely because of religious persecution in the neighboring countries who have declared themselves quote-unquote Islamic. Now, after 11 December, the kind of agitation, the kind of protests that have taken place, there are two kinds of protests in this. One is what we saw in Northeast. Still there were some concerns about, as I said, about identity politics. And the other is mainly because, as you said, mixing up the things with NRC and documents. Even after this notification yesterday, this has become operational document, constitutional document, so you can't call it at least anti-constitutional now. But many people said we will not show the document. Baba, you are not supposed to show the document. In NRC, only the people who have entered India before 31st December 2014 from Bangladesh, Pakistan and Afghanistan, and who fall in the category of non-Muslim religious categories of religious persecution that have identified by this particular act, or rather amendment to the original act. Many people have this confusion that this is something new act. No, this is an amendment to the original Citizenship Act, where a kind of relaxation given to a set of category. All other clauses remains the same. And one important point, Aditi, I would like to mention, there are hundreds and thousands of people who are coming out in support of this. Many times we neglect them because opposition voices, even if they are small in numbers or they are taking some other kind of protest, then naturally it gets more coverage.
Yeah, there have been protests in favor of the Citizenship Amendment Act also. A large number of students from central universities such as the JNU, Jamia Millia Islamia, Aligarh Muslim University and other universities and colleges of Delhi University have been coming out to protest the Citizenship Amendment Act. We've seen these sporadic agitations happening. Some of them have turned violent. Now, during these protests, while some students do seem to understand what they are protesting, not everybody seems to understand the law completely. What do you have to say on that?
This student protest has to be seen in context. And historically, we have always seen that political parties or the people who want to build certain narrative, they always use students and campuses for their political purpose. It is not at all coincidence that a protest happens and suddenly celebrities reach there or politicians reach there or take a stand within minutes. Many a times, unfortunately, what happens, the students have different grudges or different issues to address. Now, in case of Jamia, it is a totally different game because Jamia is an open campus. It is not a closed campus. So, it is always possible that somebody from outside can mix up. But in cases like AMU or JNU, there was an atmosphere built up not around CA, but around many other issues, which turned into an anti-CA protest. Like in case of JNU, it was mainly related to fee hike and other related issues. But suddenly it took into anti-CA thing also. We need to communicate, we need to inform, and we need to create an atmosphere where these students cannot be used as a weapon, because it is always easy to keep students or women on front, because any action against them can always refuel your agitation. That is generally a political strategy. I think it is part of that. We should not treat much out of anti-CAA protests as such. There may be genuine students' protests. And as you said, I have also spoken to many of these agitating students. In case of CA, many of them actually started talking about NRC. That shows the real scenario.
And as HRD Minister, Mr. Ramesh Pokhriyal clarified that we cannot allow campuses to become political dens. Coming back to the issue of the CAA itself and how it will be operationalized. Although it has been notified, Mr. Ketkar, but we also have to keep in mind the fact that the Supreme Court will be looking at a bunch of petitions which have been filed against the CAA, and I remember the first such petition was filed by Congress leader and former Minister Jairam Ramesh. They have been leading the anti-CAA narrative, plus the left parties also have been leading, and a number of students have been saying that it is something which is against Article 14 of the Constitution. Now, what I wanted to understand from you is that in the sense that when the Supreme Court takes up this bunch of petitions, the first date is, I think, January 22, when they will look at all these petitions. And since no party opposed to CAA has actually sought a stay, they have actually sought an order on the constitutionality of this law. And the Home Minister, on the other hand, while debating and discussing the law, had argued very vociferously in Parliament that even Article 14, the right to equality, gives the government of the day the larger flexibility of creating a set of categories for which you need to ease the citizenship rules. And he had said that this is called the reasonable classification. And the government at that time had said under reasonable classification, religious persecution is a special category under which these people only fit, the 6 non-Muslim minorities. Now, constitutionally speaking, where according to you does this debate of CAA being against Article 14 lie?
I doubt how they are going to argue this. I'm not sure whether the Supreme Court is going to take this up, because recently the Chief Justice of India clearly said that the violence has to stop before we hear something on CAA. So after this notification, let us hope that the things will calm down and the battle will be there in the court now. But why I am questioning this particular argument of Article 14 is not just on the ground of reasonable classification, but this has been our civilizational practice about which Pandit Nehru also spoke. But most importantly, it will be a problem if you go to the precedents, and court generally goes into precedents. In 2004 February, the similar kind of thing was brought in by the then NDA government led by Atal Bihari Vajpayee, which was not operationalized. It was meant only for minorities who have come from Pakistan, and it is clearly mentioned as Hindus from Pakistan who have come to Gujarat and Rajasthan. Now, in July 2004, Manmohan Singh government operationalized that. In 2005, in 2006, gave extension to it for a year each. So it clearly has a precedence. And then there were no other communities, not even Sikhs, not even Christians. Although in case of Afghanistan, in case of Pakistan, Christians and Sikhs are substantial numbers when it comes to the persecuted minorities. Most of the confusions that are created, I think, for political reasons, and the larger narrative that a particular community is insecure in India, especially the India that is led by Prime Minister Modi and BJP. And to sustain that, this is being confused with NRC. And that is the real reason that the confusion is being created. Another aspect of this is to do with the Assam NRC. Assam experience is there are around 19 lakh people who did not find their name in the citizenship register, and it created a lot of confusion because in India the citizenship is a national issue and not a state specific issue. In case of Assam, it actually became a domicile issue. So many people who actually settled in Assam in last few years from other Indian states also found it difficult to prove themselves as Assamese. It is natural because there is a large, for example, Marwadi community who is there in Assam. They will always find it difficult. Now, when you take this experience on the ground into account and then relate it to CAA and plus add it to NRC, then it becomes problematic. So, it is better to wait for the larger NRC debate and need not be confused because CAA is meant only and only for this particular community. I think Supreme Court will take this into account, the precedents into account. Generally, the articles that are quoted are Article 14 and Article 25, that is again related to religion. Again here, there is no discrimination as far as Indian citizens are concerned. It is meant for Indian citizens. Article 14 is for general, all individuals. But again, there is no discrimination because the persecuted communities who have come to India and taken shelter as refugees and who are almost living like stateless, they have some identity and other practical issues. So I think Supreme Court will take all these issues into account while deliberating on CAA.
Citizenship being a central subject, and states do not really have power over something because it's a sovereign subject and falls in the central list clearly. Government has clarified it time and again, and government has also allayed fears, as you said, that NRC is nowhere near debate, so there's no cause for alarm. And the government has accused the opposition on many an occasion in the past of actually fear-mongering on the NRC issue to further create some kind of confusion among the minority community. This is the government version. Now, where does this center-state battle go? Because a clear argument is, if the states have federal rights under a federal structure, the center has federal rights too.
Many people, when Kerala Assembly passed the resolution, argued that in fact there were some headlines even in foreign newspapers that Kerala Assembly rejected CAA. Now that clearly shows the ignorance or lack of knowledge or deliberate, whichever way you want to call it. But the fact remains that where are the larger issues related to these persecuted communities who have come to India? It's Gujarat, Rajasthan mainly. Maharashtra will see some kind of thing because in Mumbai and around there are certain pockets. Then here in the east, mainly Odisha, Bihar and Assam, Bengal. Now Bengal for me is an interesting case because of two reasons. One, as I said earlier, it was Mamata Banerjee as leader of opposition or as member of parliament have argued for giving citizenship to these persecuted minorities. Now she is completely changing her stand and arguing. So it is clearly a politics. So I think we should not mix up electoral political calculations with the legal and constitutional issues. Legally and constitutionally, center can always give option to whoever is registering for citizenship. Center can give the clearance. I think state will not have much of a say as far as granting citizenship is concerned. Whether those people can settle there and apply for state government employment or not, there perhaps state government can play certain rules. But otherwise, I don't think there is much option.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on Citizenship Amendment Act and related issues. The participants were Prafulla Ketkar, political analyst, and Aditi Tandon, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. This program is also available on our website newsonair.com. You can also follow us on the News on AIR app for updates. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.